Hey there, welcome to Craft Central Designs and Christmas in July. Yes, I am indeed one of those YouTube creators that participates and loves creating Christmas decor in July. Today I have for you two gingerbread specialty ornaments, one being the gingerbreads in their PJs, yes, that's what they are, they're PJs, and their nightcaps, and the other a very cute gingerbread dressed in polka dots holding handmade lollipops. These ornaments will be going on a big gingerbread themed Christmas tree that I will be doing for Christmas at the Quantum House. So much fun to create, very detailed, and really adorable decor, certain to be a conversation piece and a beautiful addition to any Christmas tree. Welcome to all to my channel today. If you are not currently a subscriber, I hope you will consider becoming one, and as well, a thumbs up for this tutorial would be very much appreciated. Also, leave me your questions and your comments. They're always welcomed. Okay, let's get busy creating these very cute gingerbread themed ornaments. Now, the larger gingerbread that you see there, that could also be a wreath insert or the center of a wreath, but it could also stand alone on its own, say perhaps in a gingerbread themed kitchen. That would be very cute. All right. So let's start with the three gingerbreads, which I dress them, imagining that they are PJs. And they also got nightcaps. As you could see in the intro, these are so cute. Now, these are those gingerbreads that I had ordered last year on Amazon. They're about, I want to say about 1/8 of an inch thick, about, I want to say 6 inches tall maybe, and about 5 inches wide, something like that. Okay, they're 4 inches wide and 5 inches tall. I just wanted to get you the proper information. They're made of like that MDF wood, but I've been using these for years. Just put in a search on Amazon for wood gingerbread crafting cutouts, and you will see various stores that carry them at different prices. Maybe you'll see some that you like better on Amazon and use those. But this is my choice, and I'm going to be connecting these three. They're going to be kind of being a little mischievous on the Christmas tree, hanging on to one another. As you can see, this is how they are going to be connected. Now, I am using this material. I got this in the little rolls that they have at Dollar Tree. Now, this is a very nice material if you intend it to be for, like, in my case, the gingerbread's PJs. Yes, it's going to be so super cute. But anyway, it's kind of like a very short fleece. Now, you could use felt if you want to, or you could use like a really short fur. Anything very, very soft that you would imagine to be made into PJs. I have here some little buttons. I am going to be using some of those little buttons on each one of the gingerbreads. I have there some speckle because I have to cover the whole. And I have some little pom-poms that I'm going to use at the end of the long nightcaps that the gingerbreads are going to be wearing on their heads. Now this gingerbread ornament took a little bit of imagination. I wanted to do something different with them rather than just put clothes on them. So I thought I would have them wearing footed PJs and a long nightcap. Reminded me of like back many, many, many years ago when that used to be actually a thing. Okay, I have here some narrow ribbons. Wasn't sure which ones I was going to use, and you know I always gather together lots of ribbons. I did actually use that polka dot one with the stripe on the back side. That's a Hobby Lobby ribbon, and I made a hanger with that. Otherwise, I used some red and white baker's twine. I did use that on these gingerbreads. Now you're going to need a piece of plain paper. I love to buy these sketchbooks at Home Goods. I keep them on hand. I just love a pretty sketchbook. Has nothing to do with the project. I'm just sharing that with you. Okay, so now we are going to be creating patterns. The triangular pattern that we're going to use, that's going to be for the hat. The other pattern we're going to actually create by tracing around one of the gingerbreads. The triangular piece is 4 inches wide and 4.5 inches tall. You'll see me using this pattern for all 3 of the hats. So it's basically just a triangle. The base of the triangle is 4 inches wide and it's 4.5 inches tall. So that's going to be my pattern for the hats. And this is going to create a very long hat. And again, I'm going to be putting a pom-pom at the end of the hat. Now, so what I do is I just take my ruler and I measure out the base, which is the 4 inches. Then right in the middle, I divide that 4 inches in half. So I go to the 2-inch mark. And I'm going to just draw a line 4.5 inches long, connect the dots, and you have a pattern. Now, there are going to be some measurements throughout this video. I'm going to include everything in the description box. Now I'm just connecting the dots, and this is how I get my pattern. Okay, so of course you're going to be cutting those out. And now this is the pattern that I created for my gingerbread PJs. So you can see those are a nice thickness. And I really, really love these. I have made so many ornaments with these. If you are a gingerbread lover, these are a must because there's so much potential. You could do so much with them. So what I'm going to do, now this is how you're going to create your pattern. You're going to place your gingerbread wood on your piece of paper. You're going to take a pencil and you're just going to draw lines around any area that you can, and you're going to connect the dots. So I'm going to do it over right at the top of the arms. I'm going to trace around the legs, around the body, and stop right there underneath the arm because I'm going to have to draw in lines for the perimeter of the pajamas. That'll make more sense here in just a minute. There, you see what I'm doing? I'm just connecting the dots. Now I have to create a neckline, so I'm just going to do a little scoop up there at the top and connect those lines. Now, this is a basic pattern. When we start creating the ornament, you can always do your alterations at that time. But you're going to create the PJs using that pattern. Now, you're going to need 2 of those per gingerbread. I do cover the back. Now, of course, any ornament on the tree has a front side, a main side, but I like to be sure that the back of my ornaments that I go to so much effort to create looks well on the back or looks pretty on the back as well. Okay, now I'm also going to cut some strips of fabric. I am actually going to cover the sides of the area where the PJs are on my gingerbreads. Now, this is a a real finishing touch on these, and I think it's really a good one. If you noticed in the intro, it really looks like they're covered and actually wearing footed PJs. And this was such an easy step. So for the sides of my gingerbread, I want to say those pieces there are maybe a little less than 1/4 inch. Now you can always trim it up. Just a basic 1/4 inch would be fine, maybe a little bit less, and create a few strips of that with your material. I think that I cut several pieces, but I don't think you're going to need 12 inches per gingerbread. That's a small area that you're going to be covering, and you're just going to be wrapping that fabric around the sides of each of the gingerbreads, but it's not going to take much. I want to guess maybe 6 inches for each one. Okay, so now I have my pattern. And I'm going to cut out a front side and cut out the fabric for the back side. Now be sure that you keep this in mind when you're cutting out your fabric, that you're going to be covering one pattern with the front, and then be careful to get the material facing the correct way for the back so that it fits properly. Okay, so we have some spackle, and I'm just going to push that spackle into the holes because I definitely want my holes covered, even though for the most part you're probably not going to even notice that hole. But I do kind of perch my nightcaps, I'm just calling them nightcaps, you guys, on the top of the head, and because it's possible that you could see the hole, I just decided to go ahead and take care of it. So I just push in that spackle on both sides. Now, if you need to, you can sand that up a little bit with a zip sander later. Okay, now I'm going to glue all 3 of my gingerbreads together before I paint. I think the wood on wood to glue is a better idea. Now, if you follow my channel for any length of time, you know that I created one of these. I'm not sure if it was last Christmas or the one before. Who cares? It doesn't matter. I've done this before. But this one's going to be different. I'm going to be, as I mentioned a few times now, putting my little footed PJs on these gingerbreads. So just decide how you want them to attach to one another. Now these are super cute on a Christmas tree. And it makes a nice, long, large ornament. I do love large ornaments on a tree, as well as small and just medium size. Now, it's holding very well with Aleene's tacky glue. That's what I glued them together with. Now, just for an extra measure of security, I have a little wood piece here. It's flat. You could use a dowel if you wanted to, but I'm just going to put a reinforcement on the back here, and I just did that with Aleene's tacky glue. Now, when I cover my gingerbreads, I actually will be covering that piece of wood on the back as much as possible. All right, now I'm going to take my fabric. I don't know what this fabric is called. Like I said, I just picked up a roll of it at Dollar Tree, but it's so perfect for PJs. Oh my goodness, it's soft. It's almost like a very short kind of a fleece. Yeah, super cute. But like I said, you could use felt. You could just maybe search for some type of fabric to use for these gingerbreads that's just super soft, that you could imagine being a great fabric for PJs. So I take straight pins and I use my cutout that I created on paper, and I just cut out all of my pieces. Now remember, front and back for the PJs. Now I have my strips. Actually, I have more than I need there. But you could just cut them as you go along if you just want to wait until it's time to apply those to the sides of your gingerbread. And I have all 3 hats ready to go. Okay, now it's time to paint. Now I'm going to use my favorite color that I use for gingerbreads. It's called cedar bark. It's a part of the Crafters collection. That's the name of the brand that they carry at Hobby Lobby. I really like their paints. They're very smooth and rich color, and I really, really like them. But before I do that, what I'm going to do here, and you're going to see me make a mistake. Yes, I make mistakes, a lot of them. No matter how, and I'm making one right now. Look what I did. I was supposed to just be taking my paint right up to the hand of the gingerbread, and what did I do? I filled it in with paint. I can correct that later, but you see what I did? I'm leaving my mistakes in so you can see. Doesn't matter how long you've been crafting, we all make mistakes. Now what I'm doing here is I'm taking a color that's similar to my fabric, and I'm just putting down a layer of that paint. Now I don't think you can see through the fabric, but I don't want to take any chances, so I'm filling it in wherever those PJs are going to be resting on my gingerbread ornament. The other areas, I'm going to use my cedar bark paint for the head, for the hands, and that's what's sticking out on this gingerbread, just the head, and I guess you call them hands or arms. I'm not sure. Anatomy of a gingerbread is, leave it up to the imagination. What you want to call them, I guess, hands. No matter, I'm just going to carefully paint on the sides and in the back, of course. And I'm going to paint this area right there at the edge of where the PJs are on, let's just call it an arm. Okay, and don't forget the sides, very important. So anywhere that you didn't paint the lighter color, that's the color of the fabric. Now, if you're using felt is pretty solid, so you could probably get away with not even doing anything but painting the head and the gingerbread arms. But you're going to have to draw in your lines where your armholes in your PJs are going to be. Now, I'm going to fill in on the sides, and I also, again, I do the back. Now, I like my colors to be very rich on my pieces, so I actually put 3 coats. The first coat, that MDF wood just really kind of sucks up. Then the second coat, it gives you a nice layer. The third just polishes it off. That's the way I look at it. Doesn't take that long to do it. And so you could see I'm out of frame. Okay. So I filled in everything appropriately on all 3 gingerbreads. Now, these 2 gingerbreads that I'm presenting to you today, ornaments, these are extremely detailed. That's what I do. I love that kind of projects where it's so detailed and it just brings something extra to the project. So this is a long video, so you can maybe watch one of the projects and then come back later and watch the other. You could forward over anything that you feel is mundane and not of interest to you. That's completely up to you. Everybody has their particular idea of what they want from an instructional video. Or you can sit and watch every minute of creating these adorable ornaments. You never know what you might learn along the way. I've been crafting for, oh my goodness, maybe 40, 50 years. So I have a few tricks in my arsenal. Arsenal? My crafting ways. Okay, so now we are going to draw on the faces. I'm also going to go ahead and put squiggle lines over the head and on the arms. Now I'm showing you again the different eyes. Those are just simple oblong eyes tilted a little bit with some lashes. That's the one that I used. I create 2 parallel lines, and then I connect to those parallel lines a teardrop shape right there. I draw in the eyeball, add some eyelashes, and it's that easy. But I always start with my 2 parallel lines right down the center, and then I just attach my teardrop shape, and that's how I do my eyes. This is a particular way that I like to do my gingerbread eyes. Now you can do whatever it is you like. The one on the bottom is the same thing as the second one. It just has the eyelid drawn in. Now maybe you like a different type of gingerbread face, or maybe you'd like to look up some other faces. You could just Google, or you could go on Pinterest and just put in gingerbread faces, and you will see a whole lot of gingerbread ideas for faces. Okay, so I corrected my mistake here, filled in everything appropriately. I drew in my face. I always even draw in my squiggle lines, but I wanted to include those as much as possible on here. So I did include them on the arms. Now I'm going to also take that squiggle line and bring it up over the top of the head. Now I like to take a pencil to draw my faces and my squiggle lines because it gives me opportunity to correct a mistake. It's very easy to erase, but once you start painting, it's a little more complicated to correct errors. So I like to, at the onset, just get it right. And then all I have to do is take a fine tip paintbrush and paint in all of my features on my gingerbread. Now I'm going to be doing my mouth, fill in my eyeballs, my eyebrows, and my eyelashes with a black acrylic paint. I use a very fine tip paintbrush for this, just for detailing. It's worth picking up a good paintbrush. They're on sale generally every other week at Hobby Lobby, and it really cuts down on the frustration when you're trying to create very fine lines, especially for eyelashes. Okay, so I filled in the white on my eyeballs. Now I'm doing my cheeks. I also included a red heart nose on all 3 of my gingerbreads. Now I take a short, kind of a bristle brush. I dip it in my red paint, and I keep a paper towel handy, and I rub off almost all the paint, and then I use a circular swirling motion to create pink cheeks on my gingerbreads. I also include 3 white freckles at the top of each of the cheeks. That's something I characteristically do for my gingerbreads, and I'm doing that right now. Okay, so you just very tiny little dots, as you can see right there. Even though the gingerbreads are small, just detail the faces. Adds so much. Now, I did make the mouths of each of my gingerbreads just a little bit different, just to give them some distinction. But all three are going to be wearing the same PJs and the same nightcap. Okay, so now it's time to start dressing our gingerbreads in their PJs. Now I'm going to use Aleene's Tacky Glue. I got a new bottle this week. Oh my goodness. It's so awesome. Nothing like a new bottle of glue. Does anyone else love that like I do? But I'll tell you what I don't love, and I'm still on my Surebonder nightmare. I had purchased Surebonder glue sticks out of desperation one day at Hobby Lobby, and I keep this pouch. I've told this story like 10 times, but I'm still in Surebonder dilemma here because, yeah, I put them in my pouch with my other glue sticks, which are Gorilla. Now I can't tell them apart. Now I keep getting stuck with Surebonder glue sticks, and I'm not a fan. They are so stringy. And you're going to see me fighting the strings throughout this entire video. All right, back to the gingerbread. I keep talking about it, but oh my goodness. I would never buy those glue sticks ever again. All right, as you can see, I'm going to get off that topic now. I'm going to wrap around my strips. So what I'm creating here is the look that they're actually wearing these footed PJs. Is this like so cute or no? So anywhere which is the edge of the gingerbread where the PJs are showing, that's where I'm going to place my strips of my fabric. Now you can almost see that little texture to that. It's like a fleece. I don't even know what type of fabric it is to even tell you to go try and find it. And you know what the other problem is that we no longer have Joann's for that kind of thing. So we kind of just have to wing it and go with whatever we can pick up, I guess, mostly at Hobby Lobby. We don't have a lot of options anymore. But again, you could use felt, but I think trying to find something soft and cozy for the PJs is a good idea. Okay, so I'm going to have a little bit of excess, which I intended to place that excess on the back side. So what I did was I aligned my strips with the front edge of my PJs, and then I knew any excess, I could just cut it off in the back. Now you do want to have a nice pair of sharp scissors for these projects. That really comes in handy. Again, sometimes, just paying more for something really is rewarding, because that holds so true for scissors. Okay, so now I'm going to put the front on as well as the back. Now, the reason why I put the sides on first, once I start placing my PJs on there, it's going to meet up with the fabric that I placed on the sides, and it's going to look like a continuous, like there's no division of the fabrics. And that's why using some type of fabric with a little bit of fuzz or texture really works best for this. Now, you may be wondering, why did I paint the area where the PJs, the same color as the PJs? Well, I did that because I wasn't sure at the onset when I went to meet up those fabrics for the top versus the side versus the back, if I would have any areas where the wood might show through. So I figured if I went ahead and I painted it, whatever color the PJs are, and I would do this if I were you, then it won't be so obvious if the fabric, when it meets, isn't absolutely perfect. Does that make sense? Just a measure of doing it so that you don't notice anything peeking through on those areas where you meet up the fabric. So now there are going to be alterations. So you just want to take your time with this part. Use your sharp scissors. Make the appropriate adjustments anywhere you need to. Now I wanted on my gingerbreads to see a little bit of the squiggle lines on the arms. So I'm going to go ahead and cut in with my scissors just a little bit more there, as you can see what I'm doing here. Now I can see that classic squiggle lines on the gingerbread. I like to keep that look when possible. So very easy to do this part, and you're going to see if you cut carefully that you're not even going to notice that that fabric on the top isn't a part of the PJs that I put on the sides, if that makes any sense at all. Now you can see where the sharp scissors come in. They really help out in this. So I am going to be using tacky glue. Now notice I did a little bit more of a scoop on the neck. I mean, you do you. You can kind of create your PJs however you want. Now, if you don't want the PJ look, okay, you can just do these and create regular gingerbread clothes. You could make them with dresses or like an overall look for boys if you want. I think all of my gingerbreads are girls. Don't ask me how I know that. Just creating them that way. And they're all dressed alike. Probably they're sisters. Okay, I'm thinking way too deep into this, right? I tend to do that when I do projects. I kind of create a little scenario in my head. Is that weird? I'm not sure. Okay, so I continue just trimming up, doing little adjustments here and there till I got it just the way I wanted. And then I'm going to take my tacky glue and just apply that fabric right to the wood. Now I have to do this 3 times. I'm not going to make you watch me do it 3 times. I'm just showing you one of them. Now I like to drag my nozzle over my surface. That way I don't get like a lot of extra glue oozing out all over the place. And the good thing is when you go to put this on, you can kind of make adjustments as well by, pushing your fabric, like see how I'm doing there with my fingers, just to get it just the way I want it sitting on that gingerbread. Now you're probably thinking, wow, all the detail, and I spend a good amount of time on all of those features. But all I can tell you is it matters. It really does. I mean, these 2 ornaments, if you want to call them that, and that's what they are just so detailed, but so unique, so different. I know I often have people, when they see my creations, whether it's at work where I decorate or on my Christmas tree or on my son's Christmas tree, which I decorate, and people generally stand by the tree and like, oh my goodness, oh look at this, oh look at that, because things are unique. And I love a Christmas tree. I personally love when I go look at someone's Christmas tree and they have handmade ornaments. I love to know about them. How did they create them? Where did they get the ideas? I really have an appreciation for that. And I appreciate when others appreciate my ornaments. And you probably would too. Okay. Look at that. Oh my goodness. They're all in footed PJs. Is that not adorable? Look at that fabric. It's so perfect. Try maybe Hobby Lobby. Maybe they have some type of fabric. Just choose something soft and cozy. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now let's move onward. And we're going to start working on our hats. Now, I showed you how to measure them and cut them out. Couldn't be any more simple. We're just going to fold them in half. Now, I do have these great little tiny buttons. Each of my gingerbreads is getting different buttons. I have black with white polka dots, white with red polka dots, and red with white polka dots. And that way, they're different. But again, they all still have the same PJs. So I'm going to take my Aleene's tacky glue and just put a little dab of glue and go ahead and glue on my buttons. Now I am going to be putting a little baker's twine bow at the top of my PJs. Now I think that the narrow ribbon is just it's too wide for those little gingerbreads. So that's why I chose baker's twine. All right, so I'm going to fold my hats in half, of course, wrong sides together. And I'm going to use my Aleene's tacky glue and create a line of glue. I'm going to meet up my edges point to point. And then I just want my seam to be very narrow. So I put my glue right toward the edge of my hat, or my seam is very, very, very narrow. Okay, I'm going to do that to all three. I also put a little twine bow on the hats. Now I'm going to do a little blunt cut on the end, and I'm just going to take Aleene's tacky glue and attach my pom-poms. Then I'm just going to let them set aside and dry. I create that little blunt cut there just so I can have a kind of a flat surface to attach my pom-poms. Now you could use any color pom-pom you like. I used white. Now those are going to fit very nicely on the heads of those gingerbreads. I measured everything out carefully to give you the best measurements to make that happen. Okay, so I'm going to use my little quilling applicator. It has Elmer's glue in it. Now you're going to see that I went around the neckline of the PJs, and I thought I was going to create a neckline attaching some of that baker's twine, and I ended up not really liking it. So I pulled that off, and instead I just made 3 little baker's twine bows. And that's a little bit tricky when you're working with such a tiny bow. But what I did was I just used my glue to help me achieve that. And I just created some figure 8 bows, and I just let my glue help me hold them together in the center of the bow. So that's what I'm doing here. I left a little bit of tails, and that's going to go right at the neck of each of the gingerbreads. And that's where it's going to go, right there in the center, right above the line of buttons. Now, as I mentioned, I did cover the back. I had my PJ fabric that I cut out for the backs, and that covered up that wood support piece in the back. Now, obviously, the back is not anything at all like the front, but again, just in case it's on a tree, and you can see a little bit of the back of the gingerbread. At least it has some look of finished on the back. Now, I did do the squiggles on the back as well, but obviously not the face. That's just on the front. Look how cute. Okay, now I took some baker's twine and I tied a little bow at the end of the hat right by the pom-pom. Isn't this a cute touch? Now, this is very easy to do. Now, I did wait until those were dry, of course, from putting the pom-pom on, but I just tied a little bow. Very simple, very easy, but it was a really cute little touch. And like I said, I do put one of those little twine bows as well on the sides of the hats, which you'll see here in just a bit. Look how cute. Oh my goodness. I love this. I love this ornament. It's going to look so cute. I'm going to put this one on the front of the Christmas tree. You can be sure of that. Okay, so I have this satin cord. I was going to make this a hanger, but you know what? I ended up not, but I did end up using it on my other ornament. But just to show you how to do it, it's quite simple. Create a teardrop shape with your cord, tie a knot in the bottom, and then you could just glue that to the back of your ornament. Very, very simple to do. This worked out perfectly for the other ornament, but what I decided to do for the top of this ornament is to use that polka dot ribbon with the stripes on the back of the ribbon, and that was a really nice addition to this piece. All right, time to put the hats on. Now you could decide which way you want your hats to go, where you want the pom-pom at the end of the hat, how you want to fold it over, all that is up to you. So what I do is I put a line of glue right across the top of the head, and I fit my hat down over it. Now, what I like to do is put my glue down and fit the front of my hat, and then I let that dry. And then I go and do the back of the hat. But it's really important to me to get the front correct. Sorry, my hand's out of frame there. But you'll see here in just a second. So what I do is once I have my hat all glued on in the front and the back, I kind of take my fingers and pull the hat so that it opens up a little bit, if that makes sense. And then I decide how I'm going to fold my hat over. Now, I like to kind of create like a rippling of the hat, if that makes sense. So I pull it down a little bit, creating like some little folds over the top of the head in the fabric. And then I bring the side of my hat over to the side, obviously, and then I do tack that down so it will stay. So I just pretty much tack down right around the area of the pom-pom like that. Now, I didn't want any filler of any kind on the inside of the hat. It's too small for that, and I felt that I could create the look I wanted without doing that. So you can see now I'm carefully applying my Aleene's tacky glue, and see how I still have that little squiggle line of the gingerbread. I wanted to keep as much of that look as possible. And so I'm going to go ahead and go about putting my hats on all of my gingerbreads exactly the same way. Now for my gingerbread on the bottom, I decided to fold that over the opposite direction. And I actually don't fold it over so the pom-pom's in front. I did something a little different with that one. I folded it over so the pom-pom was in back of the arm. Now you can do however you like, but just to change it up a bit. Now I have my little tiny baker's twine little bow, and I stick it right on the side of the hat there. Again, lots and lots of tiny details, but can you see why it makes a difference? Yeah, it's really, really worth that extra little bit of time. So see how I'm pulling open the fabric of my hat and then I kind of scrunch it down a little bit? That's the look I like. And then I just fold it over and I'll just tack down the end of my hat where my pom-pom is. And then I'll pop my bow on the side of that hat, and then I'll do the one on the bottom. Now you can see all the steps to this gingerbread. These gingerbreads are very simple, but it's a matter of just taking the time to create them, create all those cute little details. Okay, looking good. And on goes that little bow. I try to do as much as I can with tacky glue so that I don't get too much glue mess, but I also, where I can use hot glue, I do, just for that immediate hold. And then, of course, I have to be cleaning up the constant strings. Yeah. I probably won't stop complaining about that till they're all gone. Here's hoping. It happens soon. Okay, trimming up my little twine bows. I leave a little bit of tail on them. Okay, so cute. And then that one, yeah, that's going to be folded over the opposite way. And then see how I put it behind the hand on that one? You can still see the pom-pom though. It's peeking out underneath the arm. Oh, this is so cute. Okay, now there's that hanger, but I decided this was a good addition. I create a teardrop with my ribbon. Now at the bottom or the base of that, I'm just going to put a dab of hot glue to hold that together, and I'm going to attach that teardrop hanger right to the back of the head of the gingerbread, right on the top. And you see how that's a really good addition to this piece. I love that ribbon with the double sides, the two different. Now you can see the back. See how I covered up that wood piece? And I continued my PJs around the back. Now it has a finished look. And I always try to do that whenever possible. And especially these because I'm putting them on this extremely awesome gingerbread theme tree. I'm going to do a big gingerbread theme tree for the Quantum House. If you're new to my channel, I donate a lot of my creations that I do on my channel to the Quantum House. It's like a Ronald McDonald house. They house families with a child in the family undergoing treatment for a serious medical condition. On to project number 2. I hoped you loved project number 1. Okay, again, I got these on Amazon. Again, I put in a search for wood cutout crafting gingerbread. Now, there are different ones on there, different shapes, different sizes. Okay, so, you choose the one that you like the best. I believe this one is about 7 inches tall, and I think it's 5.5 inches wide. And I want to say around 1/8 of an inch thick. Again, it's at MDF wood. Works great, though. They're very, very nice wood cutouts. But there's different stores that carry them in different sizes and shapes and prices. So you choose whichever one you like. I'm going to use a needle and thread. Now, you see 2 fabrics there. I do go to Walmart because I love the Waverly fabrics. And I decided to use the red with the big white polka dots. Now, I think the gingham check would be absolutely adorable as well. I actually wanted a little bit bigger gingham check, but I couldn't find it. And as we all know, no more Joann Fabrics to get all that variety in fabrics. So you have to go with whatever you can find. Yep, that's the way it is now. So I'm using the same paints, the cedar bark, the white, red, and black acrylic paints. There's that satin cord, which is going to end up being the hanger. And I have some laces here. This one I got at Walmart. I'm going to put this on the bottom of the dress. Now that Waverly fabric, it comes in 1 yard pieces. Sometimes you could find it also in the smaller little packs of, there's less, I'm not sure how much fabric, I think it's a half a yard, something like that. Sometimes you could find what you're looking for in the smaller packages as well, but I always use my fabrics, if not in this project, in another. So if you used the gingham check, you certainly have no trouble finding a gingham check ribbon. So that's, I don't have a lot of materials in this particular project. Now, the reason why I have a piece of white felt and red felt is because I made my suckers. Now, you can do this or not do this. You can maybe put whatever embellishment you want in the hands of your gingerbread, or don't put anything in their hands. That's completely up to you. But I'm going to show you how to make a sucker. So you're going to need a needle and thread to match your fabric, some nice sharp scissors, a fine point paintbrush, pencil, ruler, all those basic crafting tools. Crafting wire, I am going to use that. That's a 26 gauge. Okay, so I am going to paint my entire gingerbread front and back. I did not paint the sides because they're already kind of a brown color, and I just didn't feel it was necessary. I put 2 coats, I put 2 fingers up there, but I actually did 3. All right, for the dress, you're going to need a piece of fabric 38 inches long, which you're going to cut in half. Half of the skirt is going to go on the front, the other half is going to go on the back. You're going to make that piece of fabric 6 inches wide. For the head bow, you're going to cut a piece 11 inches long by 2 inches wide. Not only is this good for the head bow, but it's good for the bow that goes on the front of the dress. I'm showing you there that little piece of cardboard that they wrap the fabric around when you buy that Waverly fabric. And I love those pieces of cardboard. I always save them. They come in very handy. So yeah, I was just making a point there. Okay. So I take my iron. I always press my fabric out. Don't do projects with a wrinkled fabric. Oh my goodness, that makes me nuts. Okay, so I took my iron and I pressed a fold on both sides of my fabric. One side I'm going to be doing gathering. The other side I'm going to use my tacky glue to glue down the hem of the dress. Now I'm going to cut a piece of thread, and I want, when I thread my needle, I want it to be about 14 inches long, just so I have a nice long piece of thread and I don't run short when I go to start gathering. So I'm going to do that now. I have my needle all threaded. Now, we went over gathering in previous videos, but in the event that you have not seen that done yet, it's so simple. If you're not accustomed to gathering, or maybe you've never sewn, all you do is you weave your needle in and out of the fabric. You're going to stop after about 3 stitches and pull your thread. This is how you're going to glide your fabric along that thread to create gathers. Now, you don't want to pull your thread hard when you pull it through, because if you do it hard or if you do it fast, you could break your thread, but you could also get a knot. So you're better off to take your time on this part. Now, for that 38-inch long fabric, I initially thought I was going to wrap this fabric all around the gingerbread. But then I had a change of mind because I really wanted it to be, the gathers to be very high up by the neck. And I couldn't achieve that. I couldn't wrap that 38-inch fabric around my gingerbread. So I'm going to tell you now, cut that fabric in half. So it's going to be 19 inches. And you're just going to gather up that one of the 19-inch pieces and then gather up the other one. Be sure you have a knot on the end of your thread. I actually knot mine a couple of times. If you don't have the knot, that thread's going to pull right through and you're never going to have a gather. So you got to have that knot on the end. So be careful there. Now, like I said, I do about 3 stitches. I stop and then I gather. Weaving in and out of the fabric right on that folded edge. And this is going to be the top of the dress. Now I'm making this dress a little bit different than the one I did in the previous video. That one was, the gathers were red on the waist. I want this to be high up on the chest of the gingerbread. When you get to the end, now you can see I have one solid piece here. That was my mistake. I'm going to tell you, do 2 of them in 19-inch pieces. Okay, don't do what I did, do what I say. Says, you'll see why here in just a bit. But I'm telling you, very simple. Just cut that 38-inch piece of fabric in half and gather 2 separate skirts. Okay, what I'm doing here is I know I'm going to cut my fabric in half, so I'm locking in a stitch there to hold my gathers. You don't have to do this part if you do it right from the start. Yeah, there was a certain vision I had for this dress, and I didn't want to do another skirt where I wrapped it around underneath the arms of the gingerbread and then create like a bodice. I didn't want to do that again. I did that in the last gingerbread that I did. I wanted to change it up here. So you're seeing me kind of rectify, not really an error, but a change of mind. So be sure when you get to the end of your skirt and you know that it's all gathered up in the width that you'd like it to be, don't forget to put a couple of stitches at the end to lock in your gathers. And plain words so they don't not unravel, but just so that it stays intact. Okay, now I'm showing you here. That's the length of the piece of fabric. You could go ahead and cut it like that, but cut it in half for the skirts. There we go, right there. And again, remember, I'll put all of the measurements in the description box. So you can just refer to that, or you can screenshot. I'm telling you there ×2. Okay, so I have my 2 pieces of the dress. One is going to be glued to the front. The other is going to be glued to the back. Now, for the sides of the dress and for the hem, I'm going to turn it over on the back side, and I'm just going to put some Aleene's Sticky Glue and take care of those raw edges. We want everything nice and finished. So again, what I like to do is just kind of drag the tip of my glue bottle. That way I just get just the right amount of glue. And I'm going to go around and put the hem on the skirts. And I'm also going to fold over the sides the same amount of fabric, just maybe 1/8 of an inch, if that. Maybe it's even less than that. You don't need to fold over much. And then everything, there's the sides. I'm getting ready to do that now. Now, when you put this on the gingerbread, those sides are just kind of flow together, and you won't even notice the break in the skirt. You can tack it together a little bit at the bottom, and that will kind of hold the dress skirt together. If this makes any sense, it'll make more sense when you see me put it on. But just trying to make sure everything is all finished. You don't want any raw edges or salvage edges of threads poking around. Okay, so I'm going to create 2 bows. One's going to be for the head. They're going to be 11 inches long and 2 inches wide. Now I want a nice big bow sitting on the top of the head, or off to the side actually a little bit, for my gingerbread. And I want a nice fabric bow to match the dress on the front. That's going to cover up those gathers. Now, you see how I folded over my fabric to meet in the middle? So this is my 2 inches. I put a stream of glue and I folded over just about to to the center. Then I fold over the other side, and what this is going to give me is a finished piece that I can create a bow. Now, any excess that you have in creating this bow, you just trim it off. Better off to have too much rather than too little. So for this bow, I'm not going to obviously be tying it. I'm going to create it by folding over the loops and gluing them in the center of the bow. I do give those pieces a little bit of time to dry before I start continuing on with the dress. Now that's the right side of the bow. And it's looking good, nice and finished. And you're going to need 2 of those. Okay, now for the sucker. If you want to make a sucker, this is really fun to do. You can use this technique to create candy ornaments for the tree. I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to be making some candy-themed Christmas ornaments for the gingerbread tree, probably next week. All different kinds. It's going to be really fun. So I take a red piece of felt and a white piece of felt, and I'm going to cut strips. I want to say maybe a 1/16 of an inch. They're very narrow because you don't want your sucker to be really fat. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those. Now those felt pieces are 12 inches long, so those pieces will be 12 inches. This is super easy to do. I don't know if you noticed the suckers on the intro, but I do wrap them in a clear cellophane, the kind of cellophane that you wrap gift baskets. And then I put a bow at the base of the sucker, and that's a really cute touch. All right, so I'm going to place my white piece on top of my red. I'm going to match up the ends, and I'm going to close up the ends, put a little dab of glue right there. And all I'm going to do is just roll that felt. So I'm going to start on the end, and I'm going to do a nice tight roll. I'm going to begin by folding down a nice tight roll. And then I hold it in between my 2 fingers, and I just start rolling it. Now, you don't have to do a lot of gluing until you get more toward the end of the roll. But for this particular project, and for this sucker that goes with this project, I found that 12 inches created a sucker that was just about the right size in proportion to the gingerbread. Now see how I'm wrapping? But what you're going to get here at the end is like a spiraled looking sucker, like the 2 colors together. Now when I start getting toward the end, I do a little bit more gluing, which is what I'm doing here. Keep that roll nice and tight and keep wrapping until I get all the way to the end. And this is going to create a really cute sucker. Now oh, my dog is dreaming. I don't know if you can hear that. Yes, this is real life. Either she's barking or dreaming. Oh, good heavens. Or she's playing with a squeaky toy. So I don't know what she's having a dream about here, but yeah, she's always doing something when I do a voiceover. Last time she was barking. Okay, so she's still continuing on with her dream. Okay, roll that up all the way. Good heavens. Roll it up all the way to the end. Oh, Savannah. My goodness. I hope it's a good dream. Not sure. Okay. Now, when you get to the end, one of the pieces is going to be a little bit in excess. You're just going to trim that off, close it up, and you have a sucker. Isn't that cool? Now, you know what you can do? You can make these bigger with wider pieces, and then you can wrap them and make them look like candies. Oh, it comes out so cute. I'm going to show you how I do that probably next week. I'm going to be doing some ornaments to coordinate really well with a gingerbread themed tree, which anything candy or peppermint or sweet treats goes very well on a gingerbread tree. Now look how cute. Now, I'm going to use a skewer, a wood skewer, like the kind that you get in the kitchen department at Dollar Tree. And that's going to be the stick for my sucker. Now, I did another sucker and I had the white on the outside and I didn't like it. So I created another one off camera with the red on the outside. So think about your outside color, the color that you start with on the bottom of your stack of felt strips, because that's going to be the one that's going to be on the outside. So I ended up doing one of my suckers over. Now I took some alien tacky and right where the sucker ended, the felt, I just stuck that skewer right up in there in that little nook, and I left them off to the side to dry. Again, I'm showing you eyes. 2 parallel lines, connect a teardrop, draw in the eyeballs, and lashes. I tend to go for this eyes, these eyes. I tend to do these on a lot of projects. I love them for reindeers, but I like them for gingerbread too. Now, just like I always do, I'm going to take a pencil and draw in my lines. Now, I'm not going to make you watch so much of this part because you saw me doing this before and also on previous videos, but I'm just going to show you that I do include all of the squiggle lines on the arms and the legs. And on this gingerbread, when I do a bigger gingerbread, I like to also include the little dots around the squiggles and the little curves of the squiggles. You'll see me doing that later. I'm just mentioning it now. So I'm going to go ahead. There's my 2 parallel lines going on right now. I attach my teardrop, draw in the eyeballs, eyelashes, and again, I like to use a pencil. I wish you could see that a little better. It's hard to show that when it's a pencil line on kind of a darker paint. Now, did I mention that I did 3 coats? I did. I like that nice rich color. And I always draw everything in. Now, not that I don't make mistakes when I paint, because I certainly do. But the beauty of making these little faces and correcting the errors is that all you have to do is take your original color. In this case, it's cedar bark in the Crafter's Collection paint. And you just can correct. You could take your fine tip paintbrush say you got an eyeball the wrong shape, or the eye itself, you want to correct it a little bit. Maybe you draw one too big and the other one too small. Use your original color to correct your errors. But use that fine tip paintbrush so that you don't create more problems. Yeah, those more expensive brushes, I want to say mine is maybe $5, but I do get them on sale. But $5 for a paintbrush might seem like a lot, but it takes away all the frustrations of having all those errors occur. Like, say, for example, for me, eyelashes are very important. And so I have to have a good fine tip paintbrush to do that. Now I'm going to put my squiggle lines on. I always double coat them. Again, so that you have a nice, rich, full color. Now in those little curves of those lines, I do put my 3 little dots, kind of in a triangular shape. I think I'm going to show you that now. I am. Okay, so tiny dots. Just like that on every curve. This is a really nice little touch, and it dresses up your gingerbread, just gives it a little extra something. Okay, for the bottom of this skirt, which I haven't attached yet, actually it's more of the dress rather than the skirt. Remember, I don't put a bodice on this one. So I start on the back, and I'm going to use Aleene's Tacky Glue, and I'm going to glue my trim. Now you can see it has little hearts. So I'm placing the hearts on the bottom, right there at the hem, and then I'm letting that other little part of the lace protrude beyond the dress. That's just a really cute lace. And it gives the bottom of the dress really just a little extra something. So I'm going to go ahead and do that all the way around. Now I do stop every now and then, give it a chance to dry a little bit, and then I continue on. Okay, so this is a piece of that material that I prepared by folding it in at the center with the glue. Now I'm going to fold over my loops, and I'm going to create a kind of bow. So I make sure that I have the loops equal, and I'm going to put a little dab of glue there right in the center, and then I'm going to fold over the other side to create loop number 2. Now this is going to be the back side of the bow where I actually attach that to the dress. I am going to wrap the center with another piece of fabric. So this gingerbread is especially cute because she has a bow on top of her head that matches her dress perfectly. And this bow is going to go across the front of the dress and dress up the top of the dress. Now, I take a little piece of 26 gauge wire, and I just want to gather up the center of that bow a little bit. So on the back side, where I glued it down, I'm just going to twist a piece of wire. This is going to help me to gather that center of that bow up just a little bit. Now, I took a little piece of, I want to say it was maybe 2 inches, and I created a finished little piece that I'm going to wrap around the center of my bow just to finish that off so that it looks nice and finished for the top of the dress. Probably it's a little too long. Yeah, you could see there. But again, I'd rather have something too long than too short. Using my hot glue, I'm just going to wrap that piece around the center and finish that off. Now, I'm going to be creating a bow like this for the top of the head, but I had an idea. for this bow for the top of the head because I really wanted that bow to stand up at attention on the top of her head. And I'll show you how I achieved that. It turned out really cute. Okay, now we have our little finished bow to go on the across the top of the dress, and that's actually going to be glued right to the gathers. Now, I do place that piece that's the front of the dress, and I glue it down to the gingerbread with hot glue. I may have already done that. Maybe I didn't show you that part. I don't think I did. But it's very simple. I just situated my dress where I wanted it on the front of the gingerbread. I'm going to do the same thing on the back. Now I'm going to use that bow to just cover up all of those gathers. And pick all the glue strings that are accumulating and sticking to my fabric. Okay. All right, so this is how it looks so far. Oh my goodness. Okay, I put the back on as well, and that looked really, really nice to cover up the back as well, just in case you can see it. Okay, now I have those little wood skewers. I have to paint those, of course. One more detail to add to all the details. Takes seconds to do this, for heaven's sake. It's just not that big a deal. I know some people don't love all the details, or they don't have the patience for it. But I wish you patience, and I wish you to have a love for detail like I do, because it's very rewarding and gratifying to finish a piece that you applied so much effort to and that you can be so proud of. Now, if those sucker sticks need trimming up later, I'll do that. All right, so I have a roll of this clear cellophane. You can get this at Hobby Lobby. Sometimes they have it at Dollar Tree. Sometimes, I think you could get it at Walmart. I'm sure Michael's as well. So I cut a piece 5x7. The length of the piece that goes horizontally, I'm going to fold it in half right over the top of my sucker. Then I take the sides and I just simply gather them around the sucker by pushing in the cellophane and gathering it up with my fingers right below the sucker. Now this is going to be so cute. I always wrap my candied ornaments with this clear cellophane. Okay, so I have that pulled nice and tight. In order to keep it that way, I'm going to take a piece of that 26 gauge wire. I'm just going to wrap it around the base of that sucker. That's going to hold it so that I can take a little narrow ribbon, and it's going to have to be really narrow. You could use baker's twine as well. See how I pull it really tight to hold it? And then I'm going to create a little bow for the bottom of the sucker, and this just turns out so cute on this piece. I'm crafting in a new space now, so bear with me. I'm getting used to the process of filming and keeping my hand in the frame. I'm going to get better, but I'm in a new place. I have a new little crafting room. I'll tell you about it when I have 5 seconds to think about something besides gingerbreads. I'll tell you about it one day. Probably I'll show it to you. I'm super happy with it, but I am crafting in a new spot. So trying to get the lighting right and all that. So yeah, just bear with me. Okay, so I'm going to take my very narrow little white satin ribbon. I think that came from Walmart. And I'm just going to tie a little bow. I'm going to leave some tails on that. And I'm going to put one of these suckers in each hand of the gingerbread. Now we are getting toward the end, believe it or not. This is a marathon video with 2 detail projects, not just one, so it's extra long. The feedback I'm getting from you crafters that love detail is you're very happy, and you don't care how long the video is. And I am just happy to have you with me. I appreciate you all so much. And the beautiful messages, oh, they just bring joy to my day. And they always make me smile. So leave me your comments. I love it. I try to answer all of them. Okay, I created just a rectangular piece or a long piece that would fit right across the back of the dress. No bow needed here on the back. Now, I meant to put the squiggle lines, and you could see I drew them in, but I didn't paint them, so I do have to still go back and do that because I like the back finished. Okay. Now, this is the head bow. So I started creating this exactly like I created the bow for the front of the dress. And then I had this light bulb moment in my head where I figured out how to create this bow so that I had a lot of ability to shape my loops because the fabric just was not doing it for me in that respect. So this is going to be the center where I'm going to wrap that piece around the center of my bow. I'm doing it exactly the same way, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. I am going to take a pipe cleaner and put it on the underside of my fabric so that I can make my loops and have them have a great shape on top of the head of the gingerbread. Now, you could place your pipe cleaner inside over your fabric before you close it up, where you fold over your fabric in the middle. You could put it on the inside, but you know what? My light bulb didn't go off quick enough. And so I had already created my bow. So I just put my pipe cleaner, I just glued it right to the underside of my bow. And honestly, I think it turned out great. But I'm going to suggest if you want to have a pipe cleaner in your bow to form your loops, you could put it inside of your the piece that you glue together for the bow and conceal it. I think mine turned out fine. You can actually see it if you look hard enough. It's tucked up underneath there. But, just saying. All right, what I'm doing here now, I'll show you that here in a bit. I'm rambling on here. I created 2 little pieces. I want to say they're about 3 inches long. And I'm doing the same fold over technique and gluing them in the center that I did for my bows. And what these pieces are the shoulder straps. So I'm going to place those attached to the front of the dress. And I'm going to attach them to the front, over the shoulder, and then attach them to the back. Now this is going to be the head bow that I was talking about, where you fold it over to the center, creating 2 loops of the same size. And, you can make these loops are as big or as small as you like. I kind of wanted mine exaggerated. So, yeah, I created my loops a little bit big. Now, up until this point, the light bulb didn't turn on. And see how I match up my loops to be sure I have them even. So I was going about making my bow and, gluing it down on the back side. And then I'm going to wrap it and do all those things that I did with my other bow. And this is the first bow that I created for the head, but I ended up doing another one exactly the same, but with a pipe cleaner on the back side, a red one. Okay, so I overlapped it just slightly. Now, if you don't want to shape the loops with a pipe cleaner, you could just continue on, just like we're doing here. Again, using the craft wire to gather the center. Wrap that around, pull it super tight, just to get a little bit of a gather there in the center. And then you're going to take your piece of fabric and wrap it around just like you did on the top of the dress. And give it a twist, cut off the excess, bend it over. Now you see, I'm hoping to have, some loops that stand up. But the fabric just wasn't standing up like I wanted it to. So yeah, I created this bow all over again. Because when I want something, I want something when it comes to crafting. And I'll do whatever it takes, even if it means starting over, to get it. Now, you can go with this bow. It's perfectly fine if that's what you like. Maybe you don't want your bow standing up like mine. But that's the look I was going for. That was my vision. Kind of an exaggerated bow on the top of the gingerbread's head. Now, I do place it a little bit off to the side, not directly on the head. Now, that's a very cute bow. And plenty adequate for this piece. But again, I made that change, putting the pipe cleaner on the underside of the loops. Okay, now I'm going to glue that piece on the back side of the dress. And then I do, like I said, paint on my squiggles after I finish all the rest of the piece. But this is just to finish off the back because I like everything, finished. I do bend down the corners a bit of that piece just so it kind of conforms to the shape of the dress. And I just hot glue that down, just like so. Now on my skirt, where those two skirts meet, front and back, if you want to keep that from opening up on the sides, which it really doesn't show much anyway, I just tacked mine down right at the very bottom of the skirt. I just put a little dab of glue to hold the front of the skirt and the back of the skirt together on the sides, if that makes any sense. I hope it does. Okay, here comes the straps. Now I'm going to just pop those underneath the area of the bow, take a little bit of hot glue, and then I'm going to wrap it around the side, or over the shoulders, and tack it down in the back. And I think those pieces were, I think right around 3 inches. And then I just attach it to the back. So you see now it's going to be all nice and finished. And I'll do the other one just the same. And now my dress has shoulder straps going over the shoulders, and that looks nice and finished. I guess I'm going to show you that as well. Okay, a little bit of glue, put it underneath the bow so you don't see the end. Wrap it around, tack it down in the back. Now my dress is complete. And that's it. Okay. So, yeah, picking the glue strings. Okay, so it looks very finished now. All that effort. Okay, here we go. The light bulb is on now. And I realized, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I took on the back side of my bow fabric, where I folded it over there at the center, and I just glued a pipe cleaner on there. Now, like I said before, if you want to insert the pipe cleaner underneath the fabric, that would have been a really good idea. In fact, if I had to do it over again, I'd probably do it like that. But what this is going to do is give me the ability to create the cutest loops poking up on that bow. So I fold over my loops right in the center there. And then I'm going to wrap the center. Now, I did add some little tails to this bow. And it's kind of like, if you saw my other gingerbread, I thought, the bow on the head looks really good if you add some little tails. So I did cut a couple of really small little pieces of fabric, maybe an inch and a quarter long. And I finished them, folded them in half, and I just figured out a way to insert those onto the bow so that there was some little tails. And I'll show you that here in a minute. So I'm finishing up my bow here, folding over my loops, meeting it right in the center. Now, no worries about the raw edges there, because I'm going to wrap a piece of fabric and cover that up completely. But oh boy, that bow stands up now. Loving it. Now that pipe cleaner really doesn't even show because it's on the underside of the loops. So you could do it either way, you choose. Okay. So now I'm searching for a piece of fabric that I can wrap around the center of that bow. And there we go. And that's going to finish that off very nicely. And like I said, I do add some little tails to that. Now, the suckers, those are going to be hot glued on. I'll show you that here in a second. I tilt them a little bit to the side. I don't put them straight up and down. And right here, I'm just finishing my bow, adding a little bit of glue, cutting off the excess, and now I'm going to hot glue that to the top of the head of the gingerbread. We are almost done with this ornament. Now, this is a larger ornament, obviously, but I do like larger ornaments on a Christmas tree. They are so impactful. I absolutely love to put larger ornaments. So this is going to be one of those larger ornaments. You could also put this in a wreath. How cute would that be? A deco mesh wreath? Oh my goodness. Yeah, that would be really pretty with that beautiful deco mesh that with the stripes on the sides that they have at Hobby Lobby. Oh, I have visions in my head of this being a wreath. But it's going to be an ornament. So I am just really collecting all kinds of cute things to go on that gingerbread tree that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to take you with me on that journey all the way up to creating the tree and seeing it to its fruition. So I'm gluing my bow on the head now. Now those loops are going to sit just perfectly the way I wanted them to. Gluing everything down, and then, like I said, I'm going to put some tails and put the suckers on, put the hanger on, and we are done with this project. Okay, I'm going to put the suckers on now. I'm just going to glue them on there by the stick, avoiding the cellophane wrap altogether. Just gluing them on with the stick. Sorry, my hand is again out of frame. I'll get it right here soon. When you get used to crafting in one place and you get used to like where your hand is going to be and all that, but yeah. I think for the most part, we were good on this video. Just a little bit every now and then out of frame. Okay, so putting my other sucker on now. And this is a very cute finishing touch on this piece. Okie doke. And now I'm just going to glue that satin cord hanger on the back of the head. Pretty much right in the center, across the knot and down the tails. Pop it right on there. Tell me what you think of this one. Okay, here's my little tail. See how I just cut a little piece and I kind of angled the tail of it? And I just take a little bit of hot glue and kind of insert it in underneath the loops. And I just think this is a great finishing touch. And again, I apologize for that, but I'll show you how it looks. See how I popped that little piece in there? Just stick it right underneath the loops of the bow, and we are done. There's the little tails I'm showing you there. Just popped them right in underneath the loops with a little bit of hot glue. And I just have to do the squiggles on the back side for the arms, and I declare this piece finished. Okay. Yeah, these were fun. Let me know what you think. Remember to subscribe if you are not currently. Give this video a thumbs up. It helps my channel to grow. Tell me that Christmas in July is not fun. These are too much fun. I hope you feel inspired to make them. Let me know in the comments which one is your favorite and if you think you would like to make these. Any questions? Let me know. Just message me. I'm happy to answer. Okay, until next time, you all take care.